S2E still driven. Storyline sharp like the steel we're gripping. From first row nerves to the world stage glow. Paul Coffee hits record, let the legends flow. Black belts, white belts, journeys on the wire. Every scar, every loss feeds a deeper fire. Flight miles stack, different flags on a G. Old school masters, new wave energy. We break down life, not just how to fight. Turn the grind and the doubt into God and light. Keep kicking, rise after the fall. Keep kicking, answer when it calls. On the mat, in the heart, in the mind. Every round shapes the warrior you find. Old wounds, new growth, let the lines blend. From the mat to the mic where the truths transcend. Champions, teachers, voices from the fray. Turn the bruises and the doubt into better days. Philosophy deep, but the groove stays tight. We unpack fear, ego, shadow in the light. Community strong, every story ignites. From the day you first tap to your last goodnight. Keep kicking, rise after the fall. Keep kicking, answer when it calls. On the mat, in the heart, in the mind. Every round shapes a warrior you find. Keep kicking. Keep listening. Paul Coffee hosts and the circle begins. Paul Coffee hosts and the circle begins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Keep Kicking, the martial arts podcast, where I have martial conversations with my martial arts friends. Today, I sit down with Connor. Connor, would you like to introduce yourself to the people?
Hey everybody, my name's Connor Kitchen. I'm an author, an illustrator, a martial artist, a musician, anything you want to call me. I just love anything about expression, and especially China, as you can see.
Very, very cool. So the first question that I ask is not to my martial arts audience. It is to the non-martial artists that maybe happen to see this clip. So to those that are not martial artists, but they're thinking about it, they're researching, what advice do you give them to start their journey?
Well, I actually have a couple books right here.
Yeah.
Now, if you're interested in weapons, I would recommend the Jianjing. Now, this is a 16th century manual on how to use the staff and apply it to many different weapons. It is a guide on how to use anything, any kind of weapon that involves one hand or two hands. I guess that doesn't shoot, but yeah, this manual here is written by Yu Daiyo. He was a general during the Ming Dynasty that fought against the pirates and the Mongols. And so this is how you know that these are pressure tested techniques and how to combat people that really don't like you.
Right.
So the main thing that I'd say starting off in here would be the staff techniques. You see, they're actually illustrated. This is the
That's
first
cool.
combat manual of China that was illustrated. So
That's awesome.
I think that's a good spot to start. That's at least where I started.
Yeah. So what gravitated you toward weapons training specifically?
Man, there's something so cool about it. I mean, you watch a guy swing a sword around, you're like, holy crap, that looks awesome, man. I love Conan the Barbarian. I love Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. You know, I just loved characters growing up that used weapons. It's a good way to express yourself without speaking.
Ooh, that says the musician. I've had a couple of musicians on the podcast, and I always ask them, how has martial arts affected your music?
Well, I think that in any kind of like art practice, it's there's always a slow pace to when you start, and then eventually get faster as you get more comfortable doing the slow stuff. But that's just how any kind of artistic practice goes. You have to start slow, you have to be methodic, and you have to listen to your body and yourself to be like, okay, well, that sucks. I gotta, do that slower. So I think learning music before martial arts helped me realize that, yeah, it's not going to happen fast, dude. You gotta be methodical and slow.
That's interesting. That's really, really interesting that the music gave you almost patience for that. I like that a lot. So tell us about how you got started in martial arts, how you started your journey.
So when I was like 16, I took a course on kickboxing with a friend, and I liked it, but I ended up not staying because just life pressures and all that, having to move, whatnot. But once I moved to the place I've been at for a real long time now, I met a guy who was a kenjutsu instructor, and he was a little bit of a hard ass. I
Right.
liked it though. I was like, oh, this guy's cool, and he takes himself seriously. So I befriended him, and he just ignited a fire in me that I was like, I got to start learning how to do this stuff, man, because he's so cool. But, I'm kind of lying there. I'd say like the original reason was Power Rangers,
That's fair.
but
It's
I just
fair.
didn't have the confidence to start. Like, the guy that showed up in my life was like, you need to do this. And that just, let it go from there.
That's cool. The you need to do this is really cool. So I was introduced to you by our mutual friend Randall,
Yeah, man. Love the
and
guy.
he's a fucking teddy bear. He's so sweet and genuine. As soon as he directed me to your profile, the thing that popped out the most is the archery stuff.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and your episode, what are we at? Your season 2, episode 1. So you're technically episode 109 if we're going in numerical order. But you're the first archer.
Cool. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
this is a growing community about Asiatic
Mm-hmm.
archery. It's, everybody kind of has a lens of modern target archery, and that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. Like I never want to like be the guy that wants to talk crap on other practices because they don't seem as
Sure.
legit as, whatever I find legit. And I feel
Sure.
like there's a lot of people out there that do that. There's a lot of drama in the archery community, bro. Do not get involved. Ah! But no, like I think it's something that's really growing again, and I wanted to be a part of it. And if I'm going to be reenacting as a Ming soldier, that archery was the most esteemed skill of Eastern warriors for hundreds, like thousands of
Mm-hmm.
years. So if
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to be a general in ancient China, you had to be able to pull a over 100-pound bow and do it very well. So I'm just trying to get to general status.
For sure. I appreciate the art of archery. I am myself an archery instructor for the NASP program that's
Awesome.
inside schools. Yeah. And then I've dabbled in Japanese longbow and Korean. I haven't made it over to any of the Chinese bows yet, but for sure, as I build my curriculum in my school, I'm planning on including archery, and not just NASP archery, but I want everybody to get a feel for all of the things. Each bow's a little different. I don't know how familiar you are with the Japanese longbows, but as you're pulling, the holding hand does motion to help loose the arrow, and
Like you hold it here and then you pull everything out as you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of similarities between Japanese and Chinese archery. Actually, if you look at the Japanese quiver, it's based on a Han Dynasty design from whenever the Japanese made visits to China, and they took those designs and they actually held on to a lot of older Chinese designs, so you can get a good understanding of ancient China through Japanese technology.
Okay. Okay. So let's just talk archery. What resources do you use to learn aside from like any instructors that you work with? Maybe there's some books, maybe there's some YouTube. I don't go ahead.
So I would recommend watching. I'd recommend watching Justin Ma. He's a fantastic Chinese archery instructor. He made a book with a good friend of mine, Hayden Fu. Hayden translated all the historical works, but this was a documentation of Gao Ying's archery from, I think this was the early 1600s. But so Gao Ying was a guy who wrote a big compendium on how to properly shoot a bow and how to train.
Mm,
So they decided to translate it and send it to America. And that's amazing. I'm happy that there's, a need for Chinese people wanting to share their culture and their warrior culture with the Americans and, have us involved as well. So I would recommend The Way of Archery. And I think my friend Hayden is actually translating a Tang Dynasty archery manual right now. So that's really, really old.
very cool.
But yeah, just mostly Gao Ying's book, and then I talk to my friends. Don't be shy to ask people that are better than you.
For
That's what I
sure.
always try to do. I'm like, hey man, please listen to me. Can I have some help? But
That's pretty good. Do you teach it at all as well?
no, I'm
No.
just a really passionate guy. I never had a chance to, get into any schools or anything just because I live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere, not around anybody.
Dude, I live in a one street town in the middle of like southern Missouri, and it's like,
One
yeah,
street?
yeah, it's like one street. We got Main Street and that's it. But and then it's like an hour and 30 minutes to get to St. Louis, the only like bigger city near us. But yeah, it's troublesome, but most of the time I'm just communicating with people online.
That's fair. Hey, that probably makes it easier to go out in the woods and shoot and not
It
worry
does.
about.
Because I can go be a maniac, as much as I want. So yeah, I can't do that in the city.
That's that's brilliant. Out of all the weapons, I see you have a plethora around you. What is your favorite? What do we gravitate toward the most?
Probably this guy. Let's see if I could bring him in the camera. This
Mm,
gigantic thing. I love big chappies of ancient China. I have a theory that the big
mm,
chappies of ancient China influenced the rest of the world's polearms. And because of the Mongol conquest traveling all the way to Europe and the Middle East, that's when you start seeing large, like polearms with blades on them. And I'm like,
mm.
I'll have to do some more research on that.
I like that. I
But
like that a lot.
But
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I'd say besides this big chappy guy would be the two-handed longsword of ancient China.
That's
This
a
thing
cool piece.
website, like they make some fantastic reproductions. This is based on a historical piece. And it's hard to find those, especially since a lot of issues happen in China where they were like, yeah, let's melt down all the swords and.
Mm,
But yeah, so I loved European longsword and I love Japanese longsword. And I was like, where's the
hmm
Chinese representation for longswordsmanship? And I wanted to learn the Jianjing and apply it to the longsword. And in my opinion, that'd probably be the closest idea of what a Ming soldier or how a Ming soldier would wield one of these would be if he read that manual in that time period. But yeah, just a cool sword, big old double-edged sword you chop somebody with.
Yeah, that's cool. Does that have a flexible blade like a Tai Chi sword, or is that a
Real deal.
solid? Okay.
I think a real sword is going to have a little bit of flex in order to, if you stab
hmm
somebody, it's gonna do this a little bit. And so you want it to be able to do that so it doesn't just snap if you stab, into a target. But
Sure.
obviously wushu swords are for sport and not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hating on them, love them.
Right.
But, a real sword is going to be a lot more rigid, going to have
hmm
more cutting.
For sure. For sure. Tell us about your book. What'd you write?
Yeah, man. So this is the first printed copy I got. So I printed it and then I went to go print some more and the company was like, hey, we're going on hiatus. So I was like, oh, perfect timing. Thanks, guys. But right now, so this is Dynam. If you could see it, I don't know. There you go. So
There you
Dynam
go.
Volume 1. So it's a historical fiction work about it. The thing is, people really want to see stuff about the militaries and like all these princes and all this stuff. But it's like, I wanted to write a book about the regular people and like how they live in this time period, like talk about their struggles. Cause I think what drives a story is the characters, not just the ideas of the story. And
Sure.
so I have two characters. They're twins. One is a scholar, one is a warrior. And I wanted to show through their lenses on how they navigated a world similar to the Ming Dynasty.
Mm,
So, kind of my opinions on historical and modern China, and also like talking about the perspectives of people that could have lived. But it's mostly like, I would say it's a battle manga, like Dragon Ball Z. There's going to be these large scale, cool battles, and there's a lot of supernatural stuff involved. So if you like supernatural Chinese deities and all those stories, like that's going to be involved in there. It's going to be Kung Fu guys. It's a good time. I think that I have a lot of hope in this book just because I put a lot of time into it, a lot of research into it. And I think people that have the same ideas as me,
right. Did you do the art as well?
yeah, I wrote and drew it. Let's see if I can like spread it.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, man. That was my first thing was art. Growing up, I was like 3 years old when I started, man. And I
hmm
just kept going from there. And it's just always something I've been passionate about, that and storytelling.
Quite a Renaissance man, storyteller, artist, musician, martial artist.
Yeah, but I'm broke. I'm broke.
I mean, yeah, because you picked all those things that make no money.
I know. Like, what an idiot. Jeez. I think that there's value in living a life full of passion. And, if I don't want
Yes,
to be some kind of engineer or whatever, or a doctor or whatever, who cares? I mean, I could still buy a couple swords here and there and have a good time and still buy my wife dinner.
right, right.
So
No, I absolutely agree with it. I just think you're the first that has sat down with me that is as multifaceted in that regard. I've had people that are martial artists and that are authors, but not I've had people that are martial artists and artists, but not all of it. You are the Renaissance man, and I appreciate that. Tell me how the art, since that's what started your artistic endeavor or your expressional endeavor, how does the art affect the martial art?
Well, I think that understanding art kind of gives you an understanding of geometry. So it's
Mm-hmm.
if I want to draw somebody in the correct posture, I have to think about mathematics as well, and then that applies to like my real life practice, where it's like, okay, I got to keep my shoulders above my hips, and then I gotta, just things like that, where it makes you practice martial arts mentally because you have to replicate them in another way. So I think it allows me to think about it more. And, I may not be the best martial artist by far at all, or even good, but I'm trying my best. And I have a lot of passion towards the historical
Mm-hmm.
aspect of Chinese martial arts, and drawing it, practicing it, it all goes together into something, man. It's going to culminate one day.
Too right, too right. Well, the reason I ask is traditionally, when a samurai couldn't do the cut right with the katana, he was told to work on his calligraphy or work on painting because the brush stroke informs the sword stroke, And traditionally, if somebody struggled with grappling or struggled with judo, the answer was for them to learn pottery. Culti-
Sometimes that I've even
yeah.
heard is the other aspect to this is that if you focus on something so hard, if you're like gripping onto it so hard, you need to just be able to let it go and do something else for a little while, and then you can come back to it with a calmer
Mm,
mind.
mm-hmm.
So I think that's, I guess like for me is that I get overwhelmed if I do one thing for too long. I kind of like having multiple projects so I could be like, okay, I'm getting annoyed with this. Time to go do this instead.
Same, same. The ADD runs wild.
Yeah, tell with me, man. Holy crap.
Yeah.
But, another thing, about, the arts and martial arts is that, there's pressure on yourself to perform well too. And I think, especially in a public space, like, especially like online and stuff, I get a lot of hate. I get a lot of love. But I feel like doing both helps me practice understanding how other people besides myself view art.
Hmm.
Because, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people view it as a product rather than the expression of a person or how to communicate, you know? Like, because wasn't art originally made for us to communicate? Like, you draw a buffalo on a cave wall, and then you show a couple guys shooting it, and then two cave guys are sitting there like, "See, that's what you and me do now." So it's like
Hmm.
art and martial arts is like how to convey an idea. It's like I said earlier, it just expresses so much with so little. But yeah.
What's interesting is that there's a long-standing conversation on this podcast about nonviolence within martial arts. Like how do we as martial artists navigate situations in a nonviolent way? How do I teach nonviolent people how to weather the storm of violence? And it's just come down to a couple of things, but one of the things is framing up violence as an expression more than a negative or a positive thing, right?
Human. Like we have good and bad sides to us. Like not every day we're going to be an angel. That's just,
Right, right. Or you're
nobody's
not going to
good.
encounter people on every good day. Like you're going to deal with people in the bad days. But what I find most interesting about that in relation to what we're talking about is that you're capitalizing on the art aspect of martial arts.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Like
like
I like, go ahead. Sorry.
you're more interested in the art itself than the fighting aspect of it, it seems.
Yeah. And I think that's mostly just because I don't have a community to spar with. Like I spar. Like the thing is, I love pressure testing my techniques. I got like about two people I spar with regularly, and that's like my buddy that does kenjutsu, and that's my brother-in-law who's like 500 feet tall and, can just like throw me on the ground like nothing. So it's like, I'm just constantly get beat up by these guys. And, that's a good thing. I view that as a good thing because it helps
For
me
sure.
come up with a better understanding of how to apply those techniques. And, no, I believe that, you should learn how to like like, I don't know, these martial arts are meant to kill people, dude. That's like what they're for. And I like the artistry of it. I like the pursuit of making it look perfect. Like that's
Mm,
what I want. I want that so bad. But also in the pursuit of making it look perfect, you also understand better body mechanics. And you understand like how much effort should I put into this specific strike or in my hips in this specific moment. And it can help you navigate a really tough situation because I have worked at liquor stores and I have had to beat people up. I've had to kick people out of my store. And,
mhm.
I'd say like Shuai Jiao and like traditional Chinese wrestling or just regular Greco wrestling, just, clench ideas and how to apply those is what's going to get you as a regular person out of that. If you want to learn esoteric Chinese techniques, I think it's good to, at least have a good foundation in like how to kick, how to wrestle, how to do those things.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. We always want a good foundation. Yeah. So, like, I love the level of expression that you have within your stuff and the way that you're, look at that, the way that you're speaking about it as far as your vernacular goes. You did speak on the hate that you get on the online community. My friends and I had a conversation about it, and we kind of have a theory, right? It's estimated that 3% of America's population, right? It's estimated that 3% of America population studies martial arts. So then really most of the people that are talking to us within that community, we're just talking back and forth with each other, talking over each other about who's doing what better. And like, I feel like it does a disservice to the non-martial artist, because if I wasn't into martial arts and I saw that, yeah. But how do you combat negative hate? Let's talk about that.
I'm kind of like, man, I kind of get like upset sometimes. I'm human, like I want to
Sure.
explain that. Like somebody will say something, I'll be like, man, I'll beat your ass, man. No, I'm but in truth is that I talk to my wife about it. I let these emotions out and I talk to people that I care about and hear what they have to say. And then I stew on it while I practice, or I'm like, you know what, maybe they're right. Sometimes I'm not always right. But I do have a bad problem of overthinking it and letting it get to me.
Mm,
And that's just something everybody deals with. But
sure.
I think at the end of the day, I forget about whatever somebody says after a week, I'll be okay.
I like that. I like that. To stew on it for a week and then be done with it. As a musician, you may know who Maynard James Keenan is.
Yeah, yeah.
He was on Steve-O's podcast recently. I don't know if you saw that or not, but what was interesting, it was a good lesson for me because Maynard was talking to Steve-O and Steve-O was like, well, could I call you a rock and roll icon? And Maynard's like, no. And Maynard was like, what am I? An entrepreneur? No, I'm a storyteller. You can call me a storyteller. And it's like, okay, cool. You're a storyteller, but you are also a rock and roll icon. Like you have
Tour
informed a
everywhere.
lot.
Love your music.
Right. And it got me to a point of just realizing if Maynard James Keenan can't give himself credit, there's no way that Paul Coffey is ever going to give himself credit. And I should just let it go.
Well, I think that there's a quality in being humble and not like thinking about it at all. Like just being like, I'm here on a mission to spread a culture. This is bigger than me, and I'm on a mission to get better at it. Like I don't post my videos and say this is how it should be done. I literally put in my descriptions, this is me trying to come up with a way to do this better. So I always want to talk with a white belt mentality. I always want to think with a white belt mentality. I never ever want to be like, well, this is always how it should be done, or else people don't like you. If you're just going to be like, like I said earlier, hard ass about things, people ain't going to listen to you because you ain't willing to, hear somebody out. One of the emperors of the Ming Dynasty killed everybody he knew because he wouldn't let anybody give him advice. So, learn from the past and try to conduct yourself in a more vibration, I guess.
No, I love that. I love that a lot. So writing the book was about you communicating your study on the history, correct? Is there a part 2 that's going to happen? Or are you planning a continued series? I'm sure it's like I'm in the process of writing my first book now, and it's going to probably take me a year or so to finish. And I'm not writing and drawing. I couldn't imagine how long that took.
Well, to answer your first question, I'm working on an entire like anthology of it. Me and my editor,
Okay.
we already have multiple volumes planned out. We're just sketching up the rest of it at the moment. And it took me, I'd say like the conception of this idea was probably at around like 2019. And then
Okay.
it took till 2025 to publish it. Yeah, because I kept redrawing it and I kept redrawing it.
Mm.
Now that I came up with better like ways to make it go by faster, I'm like way farther ahead in volume 2 than I was in volume 1 within a year. So it'll keep getting better. And also if I can get, because I plan on having a Kickstarter to have all the copies paid for, and I'm going to have specific tiers for people donate a certain amount. They'll get behind the scenes stuff, original artwork, all this kinds of extra stuff. And, with that kind of funding, and if it proves to work, then if I can get more for the next one and the next one, it'll be a lot
Hmm.
faster to put them out because I can spend less time doing other stuff to make more money.
Right, right. No, that's the goal for sure. What advice do you have for anybody that's writing? I guess we'd call your book a graphic novel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say for any book, it's good to have an idea of what you want to say first before anything. It's like, what am I saying with this book? What is the point of this piece of art coming out into the world? Because sometimes people just make something and it's like, well, this is trash, man. It's like, who's this for? But, and you can say that about my stuff too. But I think when it comes to writing, it's like you always have to have, if this is a narrative like thing, if it's not just like a dissertation or like
Yeah.
something like that. If it's for like a story, I think you obviously really need your beginning, middle, and end laid out first. You need to have a solid
Mm.
understanding of those, and then you could fill everything in between those as you go. But if it's for a graphic novel, design your characters, write their lore, make sure you have everything in a document so you don't lose anything. Like organization is your biggest friend because I have a terrible, I'm not good at organizing my files and I got to get better. But yeah, network, talk, ask people if they want to help you, draw, write, or help be your editor, somebody that wants to get some experience doing this and they're not a professional. Cause that's what I was able to do. I met a guy actually at Walgreens. I was working at Walgreens and we ended up becoming really good friends. We'd spar behind the counter. He was like, man, I really love your artwork and stuff. I was like, well, do you want to help be an editor for my book? I really need one. And we're still together, like to this day, making like even better stuff. Like I'm really like, oh man, volume 2 looks and it looks so good and it's written so well. And I'm so excited to share with everybody. But just need to, get your book out first. Sometimes
Right.
don't spend too much time, just get it out.
Hmm.
But yeah.
The redrawing and redrawing, were you looking for perfection there? Were you unhappy with product?
I think it's just that every artist, even as a martial artist, even as a musician, we're like, that could have been better. That could have been better. You spend more time on it. But it's like there's a battle between there. I mean, obviously, this is a competitive space. Any kind of
Yeah.
social media, any kind of book or whatever, you're going to be competing with other stuff out there. And I just looked at it and I'm like, this is not competing with, the bigger stuff out there. And I wanted to be realistic with myself. So I kept going and I kept going. And eventually I was like, okay, I just got to get it out there. So there's a good balance between those two. But I just want my story to shine more than, the artwork has to be good, but the story needs to be really good for it to matter. And I
Okay.
hope that, the more people read it, it'll matter more to a lot more people.
Right. I also work. I've done work in film. I've done work in animation. I'm currently with a group and we're doing an animation project. And in doing that, we like learn new animation techniques. And then we want to go back and fix some of the previous stuff. And there's a delicate balance of go back and tweak because it really does add something, George Lucasing our own work versus no, it's not worth it anymore. We got to let it go and let it be what it is and just move forward. Would you say that you're happy with the book? Would you say that as an artist you're complete there, or what are we looking at?
I feel like I'm a little upset just because like I'm a regular guy that has to work a 9 to 5 and
Right.
with so much, and dude, I hate doing that. I just wish I could draw all day, every day. If I could do that, man, I could, oh man, that's what I've been doing lately. I've just been trying my best to fit as much time as possible to do that more so I can get better. But I'm not happy. I'm not the happiest with it. I think the art looks good, especially printed, but like
Hmm.
I said, I just want that marketability to my art. I just want it to be so much better, and I'm willing to put the time in there to get it there. But
Hmm.
it's annoying for the time being, and it upsets me, but I'll get over it. Like I said, give me a week, I'll get over it.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. As far as music, what music do you do? What music do you put out for the world?
So I actually had a lot of music put out, but I just took it off the internet because I felt like it didn't match my channel. So I was like, okay, I got to make another channel.
Okay.
Still haven't done that. But I mainly play like stoner doom metal. I love Sleep, the band Sleep a lot. I love High on Fire. I love
Okay.
Monolord. If you ever check those guys out, they are freaking awesome. But I just love that. Like, oh man, you ever heard the band The Sword?
No, but I like this genre, so I'll check them out.
I would definitely recommend them because they have like this stoner doom, but like thrash sound to it, and they all wear like 70s nerd outfits, and they write about
Okay.
it's such a vibe, like it's such an interesting little niche. But I love the way their music sounds. But that's the kind of stuff I wrote. I really like the band Down and Pantera, of course. So like a lot of
Yeah.
my music sounds like that. But I have full produced stuff. Like I just record and produce stuff in my house. I have like a lot of decent equipment to do it that because I was in a touring band when I was in high school. I actually went
Very
to
cool.
performing arts high school, and I was forced to learn guitar at 15 years old. And through the anxiety of failing, I got good. And I was forced to go out and play festivals at my school, for my school. And eventually I was like, man, I want a band. So I put together like a thrash punk band, and we went and traveled around all across St. Louis. It ended up, at the end, it was bad. Bad people shouldn't have worked together, whatever. But, it gave me the experience of being able to get out there and to just like not care about what anybody thinks and just like perform on
Hmm.
stage and be badass.
Hmm.
And people loved it. I actually just not that long ago, I had a guy hit me up like, hey man, I remember you from 2018. That show was so awesome. It's like, I want you to be in my band. And I was like, well, you gotta, I don't know, get a good job first or something, man. But yeah, so like a lot of the music I play is just, I love shredding on guitar. I
Hmm.
love, chugging anything heavy. That's my jam.
That's brilliant. That speaks to martial arts. You said the anxiety of failure. That seems to be a driving force. So then the question becomes, as a martial artist, we spend a lot of time and it's about make this perfect, make this perfect, make this perfect. But perfection is this illusion that we can never quite attain. So at what point in time do you have to cull the anxiety and say this is good enough to move on?
Man, I don't know. I really ain't got an answer for that one. I get so upset at myself, dude. I'm so hard on myself. Like I'm
Yeah.
like I'll be out there sweating, freaking no shirt out in the backyard of my father-in-law's place, just with a guandao, just going like so mad at like where my feet placement is, and I'm just like it has to get there, man. But eventually you just get so tired, you just can't work on it no more. So you're like, okay. And this goes to like my time growing up watching Dragon Balls. That Master Roshi always said, he's like, you have to eat, sleep, play, and exercise. You have to have an equal balance between everything in order to actually grow. And,
Hmm.
sometimes I just gotta put that little bug in my ear and I'm like, okay, be a little easier on yourself. But, people say like, cartoons and stuff don't mean nothing, but it's like, yeah, you know what? That quote from Master Roshi really helps me sometimes like do good and also learn to take care of myself.
Right. No, I love that, brother. You don't have, I'm assuming based on the way that you talk about this, you don't have the thing where you self defeat and you just put something down, though, correct?
No, man, I'll always keep trying, even if I suck. I don't care. I will be so
Brilliant.
I will be so mad if people like I'll
Brilliant.
complain. I bitch all the time. You can ask Randall. He's like, man, he's
Right.
probably the biggest bitcher you'll ever meet. That's probably what he
That
said.
is not what he said.
But no, I do get upset and I let it be known, but I'll never ever quit what I love ever.
So you're just allowing the passion to drive then. Yeah.
I think go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to drill down to any advice that you can give people that self defeat, because a lot of times we do the perfection, 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 and it's not perfected. So I'll just give it up. Like you've seen people do that.
The
So,
beginning of Toy Story where that fat guy is like cleaning off Woody with his Cheeto fingers. And that's what you'll be if you self-defeat. So no, I think like you just don't want to let that like I don't know. There's something about it. Like, you only get one of these, man. If you have something that ignited something in the first place for you, why let
Mm-hmm.
that go? Why let that go if you suck? You know how long it took for so many like successful people to even get like a little inch of success, and then they just kept going.
Mm.
Even if they only got that little inch of success, they just kept going. And that's just, it's a part of you now. You have to accept that it's you. And if it isn't you, then I guess, yeah, give it up, find something else. But you should figure that out within the first 2 weeks of practicing something.
Yeah.
But if you're like practicing something for years and then you just give up, like, man, that's not good. I just think, we need to love ourselves. We need to understand that, like, if this is something that ignites a fire in you.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. And you spoke on the white belt mentality. This all kind of ties together. But I've been saying recently that it kind of confuses me. I've been in martial arts 33 years. Every martial artist has one thing in common, and that one thing is we started with an open mind. We walked into a school, we got with an instructor in some capacity and started learning the new thing, and we weren't good at it. We all sucked, but then somewhere along the way, some of us, our minds just seemed to dry up or close off. And I'm trying to understand why that exists and how to combat it. I'm at 33 years. I still consider myself more of a student than I do a teacher. I like the title of sensei because it means the one that comes before. It doesn't mean that I know more or whatever, I think that fostering that mentality, fostering that white belt mentality is important for making sure that the arts don't become stagnant. And so
This going on with older fellas in the scene. Like, it's like some of these guys are like, you can't do it that way because I'm old and I know more than you but sometimes there's credence to that. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, your form's a little weird. Like, if they're giving you constructive criticism, then that's fine. But some old guys
sure.
out there just want to bash people for no reason. But I think like the way to combat this is to like read the historical sources, spar, try a different, like, do LARP. Go out there with a bunch of guys with like foam weapons and have a good time. Maybe do your actual moves that you'd use with a real weapon and see if they work in LARP. Like, meet other people that do something similar to what you do and just
Mm-hmm.
practice what they do. Just have a good time. This is about being a child and loving play. The Chinese always believe this as well, is that every practice or even in the way you conduct your life, you should have the mind of a child and play. And if you take yourself too seriously in those aspects, you kind of lose yourself and become like an old, like angry, like the old guy shaking his fist at the cloud. Learn to work with people. Be nice, be
Yes.
humble, and be willing to practice things that you might think are silly.
No, that's great. What is one thing that if you could give every martial arts practitioner in the world, you would give it? It can be a thought, a concept, a philosophy, a teaching, a technique, a weapon. What would it be?
A helmet, because you always want to protect your head.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Where'd you get that? I saw that on one of your posts.
Well, so I was able to get in contact with a Chinese armor smith that makes historical reproductions. And so this is a late 16th century, so 1500s,
Get the
northern
fuck
Jerusalem.
out of here.
Yeah. So this is what a Chinese soldier of the late 1500s would have on their head if they were on horseback. If you were on foot, you'd probably have a cattle helmet, But this is built for side swipes on the horse. If somebody's coming at you with a sword, it's gonna glide right off that guy, hopefully. And then if they come at you from the side, you have this to guard your eyeballs. But no, I think more guys should get into the historical stuff just because like the immense drip that you can acquire.
Well, what's interesting about that is that I've had several people come on and say some variation of that. That like when we study martial arts, it does a disservice to the student to not study the traditions. Somebody said that he looks at it like a culture. Conrad said he looks at it like a culture. And when he picks up a new art, he tries to learn even, excuse me, even if it's just a couple words from the culture that they came from. And I think the history is an interesting component of that. I think I will admit in my 33 years, history is not the strong suit of what I've studied. I do know some of the history, but I have been less interested in that, more interested in that recently. But I do think that studying the history is part of the larger picture. Do you think that studying the history informs the actual technique?
I think that the way that I think about historical martial arts, at least in the Chinese sense, is that these were techniques that were pressure tested and like recorded from like generals watching the battlefield. And they said,
Mm,
"Oh, that soldier killed that guy with this move. Let's write this down real quick, or like let's practice it together, whatever you did." And I think like if I'm looking at this manual, this is the Muye Dobo Tongji. So this is a 18th century compendium of martial arts techniques of Japan, China, and Korea, all the way from
mm,
in war. And if you're familiar with the Imjin War, that was when Korea and China fought Japan. And so all these cultures actually had similar techniques. They all like martial arts in East Asia during the 15th or 16th and 17th centuries, all were comparable in how they looked and how they were performed.
mm.
And after this time had passed, like if we're going into the 17, 18, and 19, early 1900s, martial arts became more standardized in each of these countries. And so they took on a different look. And so that's when you start seeing nationalism involved in martial arts. And that is something we need to completely take away. We need to look at these
Yes.
manuals so we can actually have an understanding that, hey, these cultures actually had very comparable move sets and
Hmm.
learned from each other. They not only fought each other, they learned from each other. And see, Qi Guang, he was the one that worked alongside Yu Daiyo, the guy who wrote
Hmm.
this guy. And
Mm.
he fought the Mongols and the Japanese with them. And they actually took the Kage Ryu scroll, so the monkey scroll, which is a very old Japanese tachikata. And so they took that, learned from it, and then invented their own style based on it. So there are Chinese lineages that come from Japan, and there are Japanese lineages that come from China, like with spearmanship. So if we are able to sit down and humble ourselves and not be like, well, my daddy is stronger than your daddy, we can understand that these cultures worked alongside each other and they learned from each other, and that these techniques were used for war, and they're probably very applicable if you pressure test them. So in modern day, like in wushu, it's like this, it's mostly for performance. A lot of modern Chinese martial arts comes from the Jingwu Association, which was a reformation of all the Chinese martial arts in the country in the early 1900s, and they borrowed a lot from Russian performances. And so this
Mm.
changed how Chinese martial arts looked compared to like when we look at the historical sources. So my goal is to be like, hey, this is what Chinese martial arts actually looked like in the time where swords were flying. So I don't want people to think that I necessarily think that this is a better way of Chinese martial arts, because the
Mm.
Jingwu Association styles, they still matter just as much. They're still an important part of Chinese history. But
Mhm.
if you really want to spar, learn from these traditional manias because they were meant to kill people.
Right. You're the guy that's saying, "Hey, these movies are lost on VHS if we don't redigitize them."
Yeah, man. Like, actually, I really want to shout this guy out. He is a guy from Singapore who translates all these old sword manuals from China, and he's the one that actually translated this. So,
Okay.
if you guys watching, and you, brother, if you want to check out any of these historical manuals, he even does Japanese and Korean ones as well.
For sure. So I try and keep these at about an hour. We're barreling towards it.
That's right.
What did you not get to say that you'd like to say? And where can people find you if you want more people to yell at you on the internet?
Right. Well, I think what I want to say is that I hope you guys watching, and you, brother, don't think that I'm some self-important guy that wants everybody to, because like because okay, in this kind of scene, there's always like some shoulders rubbing up against each other and getting and little chips
Mm,
on the shoulders and all that. And I don't mean to like downplay anyone else's systems by talking
mhm.
about the authenticity and genuine application of the historical manuals. I think that, you can make anything work if you practice it enough, right? You can
Absolutely.
adapt it. So I just hope you guys see me as somebody who's just trying to learn and trying to keep these traditions that really nobody cares about, which is boggling my mind. That, I'm just a keeper or a watcher of, the culture, I guess, in my
Mhm.
own little way. But yeah, I really want you guys to check out my book. I worked really hard on it, multiple years. If you want to go read it, it's actually for free online at mangadex.org with no ads. You can just, click on it and read everything. And you can find me, mostly I post on Instagram at Dynam Official, or you could look up The Biggest Boy Art. That was the name I came up with when I was 16. It just stuck. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, check out my armor videos. Check out my swordsmanship videos. I'm trying to make some more stuff. It's just scheduling and like
Right.
editing. Is so. Oh my gosh, man! Like I need a better computer. It's so slow. But if you guys want to support my Patreon, I have a Patreon linked on my Instagram. You can find it through there. I have it. What is it? I have it pinned on my page. And if you go there, donate a little bit, I can have a bigger budget for my videos. And we can test things out, like shoot some armor with some arrows. That's what I want to do.
Oh, love it. That sounds great. So is the book not available to purchase anywhere because you can't get more printed?
Yeah, that's the problem is that. So right
Yeah.
now I'm actually working on the Kickstarter so people
Okay.
can go to the Kickstarter and pledge, how much they want. And depending on how much you pledge, you'll get a copy of the book regardless. And you'll get extra things if you pay a little bit more. But yeah, it'll come out. It'll be out.
Word. Is the Kickstarter live yet?
No, not yet. I'm still in the
Okay.
process of building the page. There's a lot I want to get on there just so I can have a really in detailed view for all the backers. I want
For
to make sure
sure.
that they're getting a product, like a real physical thing and not being scammed.
For sure. If by some chance it's ready before the episode comes out, I'm happy to put it in show notes.
Awesome.
So-
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
If it's ready, I will put an addendum. And then if not, just watch my page, guys. I will share it out when it does come available.
Heck yeah. Or this historical Jan to cut his head off, guys. You heard that.
What? I love
this-
it, dude.
Yeah, it matches my outfit. No,
Yeah.
But no, yeah, this is a Ming Dynasty disc guard cutting Jan. That's a beast. I wouldn't want to get locked with that there.
That's awesome. Your little weapons collection there is quite envious, brother. Like,
Dude, it's because of LK Chen. I'm not gonna lie. They have been very nice to me, and they'll send me swords to like make videos on, and I couldn't thank them enough. I love those guys. They make some great stuff. This is the
that's awesome.
Shark Head Dao. So it's a Ming Dynasty, and it's got actual sleeping leopards in the guard.
How cool is that?
Just playing show and tell right now, I guess.
Yeah, love it. That's an interesting. You don't see Chinese swords that have the tip like that very often.
Yeah, a lot of our understanding of Chinese weaponry really does come from like wushu weapons. And I've been wanting to fix that because like historical weapons, they're beefy. You have to be strong to use them things, and you have to. There's just so much more you can get out of martial practice with the real deal.
Before I let you go, do you use the weapons as weight training for the weapon, or do you do other weight training or conditioning to get your body ready for that?
So I think the guandao historically was kind of like your barbell that you would use to train with to condition the body. So I have a 10-pound guandao that I swing around and I whirl above my head, like and then I also lift weights. I go to the gym 3 days a week. I do cardio. I do form practice. I do paired practice. There's a lot of little things I do, but for the most part, I'm a weightlifter.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, Connor, I thank everybody that sits down first and foremost for your
thank you.
First and foremost for your time. Time is a precious commodity that we have far too little of. But secondly, because you had this conversation with me, you're part of my martial arts journey, whether you like it or not. I can't thank you enough for that.
Friend, brother. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Appreciate you. I want to thank everybody that watched, listened, some combination of. I hope you got something out of it. If nothing else, you got to see some cool swords and some recommendations on books. And as always, everybody, keep kicking.